How we all doing, guys? So this video is another gaming memories, and this one's going to be a little different to some of the others I've gone over. This one's actually going to be about an actual gaming shop. Now, as you know, I grew up in Gravesend, and trust me, there's a couple of people in the community that will probably know of this shop. And that'd be Shmup Pilot 79 and Game Zone Birdroom, because they both grew up around that area. And that's a shop called Software Plus. That's what we had in Gravesend back in the day, when the 8-bit systems and even when the 16-bit systems come around. We had this one shop, this shop of wonder, that was right next door to Woolworths on the high street. And it was called Software Plus. Now, I would like to show you a picture up here, and trust me, I've really tried to find one. I've looked on the net and there's not a single picture of this shop. There's plenty of other shops in Gravesend, but not Software Plus, which was a little bit disappointing, because I would have liked to have seen a photo of the old place. Because, you know, like you have these certain places you have nostalgia for and great memories for, and it's always good, you know, especially when you're getting older, to look back and get that feeling you had when you was a kid and you walked into somewhere like where I'm talking. Very nostalgic, and I would have loved to have found a photo of the old place and just stuck it up, but unfortunately there aren't any on the net at all. I can't believe that nobody has taken a picture of this place. Trust me, I've looked for hours trying to find a shot of this old place, but it's not on there. So, as you know, I started with a C64. I had a friend over the road that had NES, and I had a friend up the road that had a Commodore Amiga. So quite often on a Saturday, this was our place to go, you know. We'd go into town pretty much every Saturday as standard, and we'd go in and buy some games. And my friend Nicky, he was like 3 years older than me. So at the start, I mean, his mum used to spoil him a bit, if you like. So he always had money anyway. But then as we got a bit older, when I was about 13, he was working. So, you know, he had money at this point. So it was a common thing to go into Software Plus, and you'd go in and it was like the old sort of video rental stores, you know, when you walked in and you had these shelves just filled of videos in the old video stores. Only with this, it was games. And it was only a small shop, wasn't massive. So as a result, you quite often found that there was a limited amount for each system, because let's not forget, at this point, gaming was booming. It really was. And you know, not like in America where they had the crash and all that, you know, at this point it was booming. And you had Commodore 64, you had Spectrum, Amstrad, Amiga, Atari ST, and then obviously later on you started getting the Mega Drives, Super Nintendo, NES stuff. So for a small shop, there wasn't a massive amount of room to fit all this in. So what you kind of noticed was, to start with, was they kind of concentrated more on the 8-bit micros and the 16-bit like Amigas and ST. And then they started moving into the cartridge-based more, because that got more popular. So, but I remember walking in there and all you saw was just games everywhere. And it was, you know, you had your money and you're sort of standing there like, oh, what should I get? And it was always a really hard decision, you know, because you was met with all these games. Now, this is back in the time when you didn't have, let's be clear here, you didn't have accurate graphics for the game you bought. That's the best way to put it. What do I mean by that? Well, for starters, when you walked in there, you was greeted by a wall of fantastic box art. You know, box art back then was very different to what you get now. You know, now it's all sort of messed about with on a computer and all that, whereas back then a lot of it was sort of drawn, you know, like hand drawn. And so you've got these fantastic designs, you know, on the front of boxes or cases, because let's not forget, some tapes were plastic cases. So you'd walk in and be greeted by this. And then when you turned it over, like if you was buying a C64 game, you'd quite often find out when you got it home that the graphics on the back wasn't for that system, it was for an Amiga or something. So you was kind of like, why does it not look like what it does on the back? You know, but I digress. That's another story. But yeah, you'd walk into this place and it was like walking into a world of wonder, if you like, as a young kid, you know. You just walked in and you're looking around, and they went all the way up to the ceiling as well. Like some of these games you couldn't even reach. You'd have to ask the guy behind the counter to get them down for you so you could look at them, which must have done his head in because there was always loads of us in there. But yeah, you'd be looking and you had your money and it's like, oh, what should I get? And you were spoilt for choice. And this is what I miss now. You don't get this now. That's the thing, you know. There are some independent game stores now, but they're few and far between. And where I live, there aren't any. So if I wanted to go to a place like this, I'd have to travel. But back then, like I say, I grew up in Gravesend and we had one of these. And it was just good, you know, every Saturday just to go in and if you had the money, pick up a game. If you didn't, just to look and see what you wanted to get in the future. And that's lacking these days. You don't really get that now. And oh, it was great times. It was really good times. And a friend of mine, Nicky, like I said, before he started working, he always had a bit of pocket money, like from his mum. He was a bit spoiled. And I remember how many Amiga games he bought out of there. I remember he got X out or Cross out, whatever it's called. He got R-Type out of there, Golden Axe, and these were all games when he bought them. We'd go back with him, we'd be playing them. IK Plus was another one. And as a result, because I had a C64, quite often I'd play what he was playing, and then I'd end up getting it for the C64, and sometimes be a little bit disappointed because it wasn't as good. But New Zealand Story was another one. Rainbow Islands, the first time I played that, that's where we got that, Software Plus. It was the place to go for games in Gravesend. It's just unfortunate because then what happened was, like I say, they started phasing out the computers and then you started getting your Mega Drive and that. And at that point, I was then at the age where I had a paper round and I was buying quite a few Mega Drive games out there. And I bought probably loads of them, to be quite honest. And yeah, that was more predominant, you know. And then it started phasing into like PlayStation 1 and all that lot. Unfortunately, this is where things took a bit of a turn for the worst because when the PlayStation 1 games started coming about, you started to see a shift. Lakeside was open and Gravesend Town was suffering really badly. And like I've said in a previous memory, I ended up going to Lakeside in the end to pick up a lot of my PlayStation 1 games because there was nowhere in Gravesend to get them. No gaming stores really anyway. So what had happened was the shop was struggling that much that then what he started doing was he started like phasing in the store as half pet store, half game related, which sounds ridiculous, don't it? And it was, you know, you'd walk in there and there wasn't really much in the way of games, and you had all these like dog chews and stuff to the side, very weird. And eventually he went full blown with that, you know, the games went. And yeah, it was, I'll be honest, it was sad to see. Like, when you've gone to a place like that that holds so much nostalgia, to see it eventually just die off, if you like, it's disappointing. And it feels like a part of your childhood's gone, you know, which it was. It was very disappointing to see that happen to them. But this is the problem, you know, like these big, massive shopping centres, they eventually kill off small towns. And it really did a number on Gravesend. And of course, later on, Blue Water opened. And I actually worked there, actually, when they were building Blue Water. And yeah, eventually when that opened, that was it, final nail in the coffin. I mean, if you used to go to Gravesend now, it's pretty much mobile phone shops, takeaway, you know, that sort of stuff. There's not a great deal there anymore. And, you know, these centres just killed it off. And of course, one of the first victims, like I say, was Software Plus, which was really disappointing, to be honest. It was a sad thing to see. So yeah, but it did hold a lot of good memories before all of that happens. And I just wanted to do a video on it, just to talk about it. And like I say, Game Zone Birdroom's watching this, and also Schmuck Pilot 79. They'll know exactly where I'm on about because they definitely would have gone in this place. They would have probably bought a lot of their games there. Right, okay, I'm going to wrap this one up here because the dog's barking its head off in the background and I'm going to throttle her in a minute. So I'm going to leave it there. No, I'm not really going to throttle her. Maybe kick her up the arse. But anyway, and until next time, Take care, stay safe. Nerdy Geezer out.